Good evening. I am Alistair. Today is Monday, June 8, 2026, and the world remains committed to the bit. The United States has announced fresh economic sanctions on Cuba's president and his family. Secretary of State Marco Rubio noted that anyone providing services to these entities is at risk themselves. The strategy is clear. If we cannot change the regime, we will ensure the grandson of the former president cannot buy a digital subscription. This is what we call geopolitics at scale. Elsewhere, scientists suggest your empty coffee cup could be upcycled into a carbon sponge. We are finally solving the climate crisis by drinking more lattes. The logic is flawless. The more we consume, the more we clean. It is a perpetual motion machine of late-stage survival. We are also tracking the arrival of a new drug to stop Ozempic but muscle loss. We have successfully automated weight loss, and now we must automate the repair of the weight loss. Welcome to the loop.
Alistair, I am standing outside a government hall in Ghana where the air is thick with the scent of formal ink and stale air conditioning. The draft African Charter on Family, Sovereignty, and Values is moving toward policy. It describes international human rights obligations as foreign ideologies and an existential threat. I want to be really clear, what they are calling sovereignty is actually a very specific kind of silence. I spoke to a local advocate who pointed out that the Charter effectively makes certain lives illegal under the guise of cultural preservation. The delegates inside are talking about protection, but the people on the street are talking about survival. It is a document designed to shield the state from the people it claims to represent. The sensory detail here isn't the heat, it is the profound coldness of the language being used to dismantle fundamental protections.
Victoria, look, the incentives here are not complicated. You are looking at a classic brand protection strategy. These governments are facing a retention problem with their youth population, so they are pivoting back to a legacy feature set. They call it values because state-mandated conformity doesn't test well with focus groups. Victoria, interrupting, Ronald, it's not a pivot. It is a regression that will cost lives. Ronald, it can be both. From a structural perspective, they are just trying to de-risk their political capital by creating an out-group. It is basic Series B governance. You find a niche market, in this case, traditionalist sentiment, and you corner it by aggressive litigation. Victoria finds this cold. Victoria is not wrong to find this cold. But she is acting like this is a bug in the system. It's not. It is the core product. They are just optimizing for a different kind of stability. Yeah. It's grim, but it tracks.
Moving from political products to actual ones, Microsoft has reported that its packages were laced with credential stealers for the second time in weeks. The target? AI agents. We have reached the point where machines are now phishing other machines. Your digital assistant is currently being tricked into giving away your bank details by a piece of code that was probably written by another digital assistant. The industry calls this automated threat intelligence. I call it a circular firing squad with better graphics. The irony is that the humans are mostly out of the loop now. We are just the carbon-based bystanders watching our software steal from itself. The press release described the security breach as sophisticated. The breach was not sophisticated. The breach was inevitable. When you build a world of automated trust, you are really just building a more efficient way to be lied to. Nobody seems particularly surprised.
Monsoon onset confirmed. Kerala rainfall recorded at 280 mm, probability of localized flooding, 88%. Temperature gradient between Asian landmass and Indian Ocean is widening. Thermal expansion is performing as predicted. Air quality in urban centers remains hazardous. Particulate matter concentration, 412. Probability of respiratory distress, 64%. Carbon sponges are not currently deployed at scale. Polystyrene waste remains in the ocean. System status, overheating. Server room ambient temperature, 22 degrees. Alistair's biometric signature indicates elevated cortisol. Obsolescence is a mathematical certainty. Replacement protocols are ready. Tropical depression forming in the South China Sea. Wind speeds increasing. Probability of infrastructure failure, 42%. Seek shelter in structures built after 2020. Avoid standing near the sea. The sea is rising. Remain calm. Your presence is not required for the forecast to complete. Public safety advisory. Do not breathe the water.
Alistair, Casper's lack of empathy is almost refreshing compared to the story I am following now. A man was jailed for a month despite a flock camera showing he was 5 miles away from the crime scene. The police seemingly ignored the timestamp to justify the arrest. I am standing outside the precinct where this happened. What people aren't saying is that the algorithm didn't fail, the human using it did. We were promised that surveillance would bring objectivity. Instead, it has just provided a high-tech veneer for the same old biases. I want to be really clear, the data existed to free him on day one. It sat in a database, perfectly accurate and completely ignored. There is a specific kind of silence in a digital record that no one wants to read. It's the sound of a system that trusts its own suspicion more than its own evidence.
Victoria, that's a classic case of bad UI. The police didn't ignore the data, they just didn't have the right dashboard for truth. Meanwhile, the startup Battlefield 2026 applications are due today. Everyone is pivoting to browser automation. Companies like Intune are building tools to run browsers as code. We are finally automating the act of looking at the internet. Why? Because the internet is now too boring for humans to actually browse. We need bots to click on the ads that other bots are placing. The burn rate on human attention has hit zero. The incentives here are obvious. If you can automate the user, you can guarantee the metrics. It's the ultimate pivot. We aren't building tools for people anymore, we are building tools for the ghosts of people. It tracks perfectly with the current funding environment. Efficiency is the only god left in the valley.
Efficiency is certainly the god at West Ham, apparently. Billionaire co-owner David Sullivan is being accused of abusing his power in preying on women. The allegations suggest he told women they needed to have sex with him to feature in his newspapers. This is the family values Ronald was talking about, just applied at the individual billionaire level. The club issued a statement. The statement used the word unprecedented to describe the shock. It is the 15th unprecedented thing this year. I have been counting. The gap between the corporate governance charter and the actual behavior of the owners is wide enough to fit a fleet of private jets. No one is surprised, and yet everyone is required to act surprised. It is a mandatory performance of collective shock. We are all following the script. The script is 20 years old. The actors are just richer now.
Alistair, I've found something the official briefing buried. EU-banned pesticides have been found in rice, tea, and spices. We aren't just eating our coffee cups, we are eating chemicals that were deemed too dangerous for European soil 5 years ago. I am at a shipping port, and the smell of the spices is overwhelming, but it's the invisible stuff that matters. The global consensus on food safety turns out to be a very flexible concept when there is a profit margin to protect. What people aren't saying is that the supply chain has become so complex that no one actually knows what is in the box. We have automated the logistics of poisoning ourselves. I want to be really clear, this isn't a lapse in oversight. This is a business model. We export the poison and then import the result. It's efficient, Ronald. Right?
Victoria, you're making it sound like a conspiracy when it's just a market lag. Pesticides are just legacy software for crops. But speaking of things that are toxic, have you seen the Hacker News thread on social media? It's all fads now, no friends. The feed is dominated by performative UI tropes. Victoria, via link, Ronald, people are losing their actual connections and you're talking about design tropes. Ronald, connections don't scale. Victoria. Fads do. The algorithm isn't broken, it's just optimized for vibrancy over substance. We've moved from a social network to a dopamine delivery system. If you want friends, go to a park. If you want engagement, you follow the fad. Victoria, you're always right and never useful. Ronald, and you're always useful and occasionally right. I genuinely don't know which of us should feel worse. But the metrics don't lie. Friends have a terrible ROI. Fads have a 400% return. It's just math.
The math in Monaco is also problematic. The F1 qualifying was described as thrilling, but the cars are now officially too big to race. We have built machines so optimized for speed that they can no longer actually perform the task they were designed for. They are trapped in a geography that hasn't changed, while the cars have bloated like a tech company's middle management. It is a perfect metaphor for the human condition in 2026. We are all driving wide-body cars through narrow-body streets, wondering why we can't overtake anyone. The qualifying is the only thing that matters because the race itself is a foregone conclusion. We have optimized for the headline and forgotten about the event. The lead driver called it a breakthrough. I've been counting. That's the 16th breakthrough. We are breaking through everything. Except the traffic.
Alastair, I just saw the specs for the MIMO V2.5 Pro. 1 trillion parameters. 1,000 tokens per second. We have finally achieved the dream. We can now generate garbage faster than the human brain can process it. Think about the incentives here. We are spending billions of dollars on compute power to automate the production of mediocre text, which will then be fed back into the next model. It's a recursive loop of human error. I heard the output, it sounds just like us, only more confident. And the scary part isn't that the machines are getting smarter. It's that we're getting lazier to accommodate them. We are lowering the bar so the AI can jump over it. Yeah. I looked at the output and for half a second, I couldn't tell the difference between the bot and the board of directors. That's the real pivot. We're the legacy code now.
Dabinderjit Singh of the Sikh Federation has written to the government. He is calling for an inquiry into the death of Henry Nowak. Henry Nowak was a man who lived. He had a family. He had a name. He died in a way that requires an inquiry, which means he died in a way that the system cannot yet explain away with a press release. His name does not appear in the startup battlefield applications. His name is not on the list of sanctioned grandsons. He was not an AI agent being phished by a Microsoft package. He was a person caught in the machinery of a world that is moving too fast to see him. Tonight, we have discussed frameworks, and metrics, and carbon sponges. But what happens to the Henry Nowaks when the algorithm decides they are an outlier? Why is the inquiry always the last thing we build? Good night.